What's up guys? In this video I'm going to break down the bite and explain exactly how I catch more fish on a trick worm. So in most of my videos I go out there and I catch fish, I show you guys the fish I catch, but I really don't explain what I'm doing, the decisions I'm making to get those bites and put those fish in the boat. So today I'm really going to break it down and I'm going to explain to you why I'm fishing the way I'm fishing and what makes me make the decisions that I do while I'm fishing. Now this day I happen to be doing some trick worm fishing. Let's jump right into it. Today I'm in Rebingham State Park. I've been out here since daylight. I just hadn't really turned the camera on much yet because the fish hadn't been biting. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you now, today is gonna be a grinder. I've been out here since daylight, have not picked up a bite, hadn't seen a whole lot of activity. I started out in the lake, wasn't a whole lot going out there. So I come up the river and I'm hoping these bass are gonna be hiding up in the shade, up in the river, you know, trying to stay cool. And I'm gonna start out doing some flipping. Started my new job today. You wanna know where I started working at? Right here, because this is gonna be a job, getting these fish in the boat. So as you guys heard, I had been out there since daylight. It's probably 10:30 or 11 o'clock here. I hadn't put a fish in the boat yet, but I started out in the lake power fishing with a spinner bait I showed you guys a while ago, and I covered a lot of water, worked my way all the way up the river. So the trick worm I'm throwing here is a Zoom motor oil with a chartreuse tail trick worm, and I've got a 1/4 ounce tungsten put on there, and I've got 12-pound fluorocarbon. So anytime I'm doing any kind of finesse fishing, trick worm fishing specifically, I'm always going to be using 12-pound fluorocarbon. I'm going to be using a small hook. This is a 2/0 straight shank hook, and this is a 7-foot medium heavy with a moderate tip rod. Now the reason I like this rod for trick worm fishing is because with it being 7 foot long, it's still kind of short enough I can give it those short quick pops, but I can really launch it and get it out there and make very accurate cast with it using a smaller weight like an 1/8 or a 1/4. Now, like a higher gear ratio reel when I'm doing any kind of worm fishing, say if I only want to work the first 10 foot next to the bank, I can work that first 10 foot, I can burn that bait in, and I can get it back out there again. Also, if I hook a big fish, I can really burn it in and keep slack from in the line by reeling really fast. All right, so let's get into exactly what I'm doing with this trick worm here. So where you see me fishing at right now, there's a bend in the river. Now I'm gonna call this bend the inside elbow. With the river, what I call it, you got an inside and an outside elbow. Just like my elbow here. You got the outside, you got the inside. So most of the time with any river bend, on the inside of the elbow is gonna be shallow. So there's going to be a point or hump that comes up right there. On the outside bend of that river, it's usually going to be deeper. So I'm coming up on this inside elbow of the river, and I'm looking at my side scan, and I'm looking at my down imaging, and in front of the boat, whenever the boat turned to the side, I seen a stump, or it looked like some logs that were right there. So I casted my trick worm over there at what I seen on the side scan, and I just let it fall to the bottom very slowly, and I didn't work it like most people would work a trick worm. I'm just kind of dragging the bottom with it, really slow. And what I'm doing with that 1/4 ounce tungsten, I can feel that tungsten dragging the bottom. And the reason I'm dragging, I'm not hopping because I want to feel everything on the bottom. And I'm waiting to feel that stump or that stick or whatever it is I see on the fish finder. What I typically do when I'm throwing it structure like that, I'll drag that worm across the bottom really slow until I feel the stick or the stump or whatever kind of structure or rock. And then after I work it past that rock, if I don't get a bite or that stick after it, I'll give it a little hop. And a lot of times I'll get that bite right when I give it that hop after the structure, if I don't get a bite right when it first hits the structure. Now this time I hadn't even gotten to the structure yet, and I was just dragging the bottom really slow, and I felt a bite.
Oh, that's the fish, guys. Missed it.
I don't say anything, but what I'm actually doing here is looking at the teeth marks on the worm. I'm looking at the teeth marks, and I can tell that this was a bass, more than likely, because the teeth marks look almost like somebody took sandpaper and rubbed the worm with it. So the reason I was looking to see if it was a bass, because there's a lot of mudfish in here. Now if it would have been a mudfish, I would have seen almost little needle marks in the worm. But I seen on there that it looked like it was a bass. So I got it right back out there and I threw right back into the same spot. Let it hit the bottom. About the time it hit the bottom, I felt him pick it back up.
Oh, he picked it up again. Got the hook in it. Got the hook in it this time. Got the hook in it. Oh, it's a bass. It's a bass. I'm getting a phone call. Hello. I got him. I got him. I got him. I got him. Oh, it's a solid one too. He's probably about 2 3/4 pounds.
So let's go over my trick worm setup in a little bit more detail real quick. I usually spray my worm with some kind of lure scent. This time I'm just happen to be using garlic. Certain times of the year I find garlic works better. Sometimes I find shad works better. It also depends on the area I'm fishing. If I'm fishing an area where I know there's a bunch of shad, and I know that's the bass's primary food source, I'm going to be using shad. Other places, I'm going to be using garlic. So let's talk about the color of the trick worm that I'm using and why I'm using this color. So it's still morning time, and I look down and I see with my polarized sunglasses on that water visibility with the sunglasses on is only about 2 foot. As of now, it's still kind of overcast. Water visibility was low, so that's why I chose this, because this motor oil trick worm has got a brown translucent color to it, and it's got that chartreuse tail. So for the most part of the worm, that trick worm looks natural in the water, but then you got that chartreuse tail, and that gives it just enough to get that bass's attention. I didn't really want something like pink or chartreuse the whole entire thing, because that's too much attention. The water wasn't that dirty. The water's really dirty. Then I'll put on something like a pink or a chartreuse. Let's get into colors with the trick worm though. There's a few different colors that I use when worm fishing. They're probably not going to surprise you. If the bite is really tough, I use a black trick worm. I don't care if the water's clear, dirty, murky, whatever. If the bite is tough, I use a black trick worm. That seems to work everywhere. Alright, now in this video, like I said, if the water is kind of dirty, I'm going to use something like this. So as far as color goes, we went over black, went over motor oil. June bug is always one of my go-tos as well. I'll always keep June bug. Now I like using June bug if the water is kind of clear and it's sunny out, because that sun will really reflect off of that June bug sparkle in there. It can attract those bass by sight from a little bit further away. And the other color would probably be red shad or either a watermelon color, depending on how clear the water is. If the water is ultra clear, I mean super clear, I'm going to put on red shad. If the water's pretty clear, I'm going to probably put on watermelon. Now, it also depends on the kind of grass or the kind of area I'm fishing. If I'm fishing clear water and the grass is like a green color, almost like a watermelon color, I'm going to go with watermelon. If it's more of like the grass is more of a green pumpkin color, I'm going to go with green pumpkin. I don't know why exactly, but matching the color of the grass in clear water with your worm seems to really work well for me. So let's talk about the different ways that you can rig a trick worm. One way is weightless. You can rig a trick worm weightless Texas rig or like a wacky rig. That's how I would fish if I was fishing really shallow water, or I know the bass are oriented near the top, near the surface of the water. That works a lot whenever it's really hot in the middle of summer. Shallower ponds, shallower lakes, you find an area where the grass are up near the surface, a wacky rig trick worm can be deadly with no weight. Now when I'm using a wacky rig trick worm, I like to use 8-pound test on the spinning rod and braid, like highly visible braid. Yellow, pink, something that I can really see, because you're not going to have a weight. You're basically going to be fishing and watching your line. You throw it out, you twitch it, you let it sit, you twitch it, and you watch your line for that tick. Now another way, which is my favorite way to fish, is going to be Texas rig, like I showed you guys earlier with me fishing in the video. Offset shank worm hook, 12-pound fluorocarbon. Another way is to take that Texas rig and peg it right above the weight. Now what that's going to do is allow that Texas rig to have almost like a shaky head. It's going to keep that weight at the worm. You can flip it. If you're flipping some light cover, you can hop it off the bottom, and it gives it a little bit of extra action with that shaky head. It really depends on the time of the year, whether I've got my weight pegged. It depends on what kind of structure I'm fishing. Certain structure, a pegged weight is going to come through that structure better, not get hung up. Sometimes I want my weight unpegged. That way my weight will hit the bottom and that Texas rig is still up from the bottom. And a lot of times I get those bites once my weight hits the bottom and the worm is still up or it's sinking down. Another way, which is what I'm going to be doing next, So if I'm trickworm fishing, I normally have at least 2 or 3 of these different methods rigged up, depending on what the area is I'm fishing. This is a stand-up shaky head jig, and normally I use either an 1/8 or a 1/4, depending on how deep it is, once again, in the area I'm fishing. But earlier in the video, you seen I was fishing with a Texas rig. Now I switched up to this flat head, stand-up shaky head, because there was a lot more sticks in the area that I'm fishing, and I was bumping that shaky head on the bottom of those sticks and dragging it, and that thing comes through there and it boom, 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 it hits those little sticks and those stumps and stuff on the bottom. It gets stuck on it, it makes a real loud pop under the water, and it gets those bass's attention. So after I caught that first fish, that's what I started focusing on, going up the river, finding these points, these inside elbows, casting towards the inside elbows, looking on my side scan and seeing if there was any kind of structure on the point.
Got the hook in him. Guys, river bass fight so hard.
A point is naturally a place where bass are going to hang out. They're going to hide there, they're going to wait to ambush prey. But if you can narrow it down even more and find a hump or an inside point like that that's got a log on it, or a stick, or a rock, you can really narrow down the area that you want to hit on that point, depending on how big the point is. You know, if the point's pretty small, I'm going to fish the whole thing. But if it's a bigger point, I'm looking for something on that point to give me a target to throw at. And a lot of times that gets me the extra bites. So that's what I did. I started working my way up the river, just power fishing between the points, and then once I get to those inside elbows, I would slow down and fish really slow with this trick worm. And that's what I had to do this day to get the bites. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And if you guys like this video, please say that in the comments. If this video does really well, I'm going to do more videos like this, trying to help teach you guys how to fish, trying to be more informal. If the video doesn't do so well, probably won't be doing another one. So if you like this video, please don't forget to comment. Also check out the shirts. We got new merch, baby. We'll see you guys again soon.